to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob. That's me. Here it is about 4:06, and I had a really earlier show, about 1,000 people. And the second show, I was interrupted, and I had about 76, just for 4 minutes. That was cool. And so here we are coming back, and it's 4:06. It may rain, it may not rain. If it rains, I'll stay undercover here until it doesn't rain, and then I'll move on. And otherwise, I'll move on in about an hour, right? So, again, please print everything in capitals. It's not screaming at me. I know it's against protocol, but I don't have my glasses. I can't really read what you say. And you guys, once you get going pretty fast. So, again, hit that subscribe button with the bell so you get informed. Again, you want to get a hold of me in person, the dudeawake42 at Gmail, right? And I've had loads, the cadre was part of that in the beginning. That was great. And you guys are turning into a great cadre yourselves. And so I really appreciate that. And so we're very in interesting times, but we've been here before. I was born in 50, and so I had this great, so the 1950s were not great again. It wasn't happy days, We had the Red Scare, which broke, the only time that the worker had any kind of where they weren't a slave, because it wasn't just black people who were slaves. The Irish were slaves. They were the northern slaves. And the North had black slaves too, And that, Second Amendment, where you're supposed to be able to, to have a militia, right? And the militia was owned by the rich people. It was their own police force. They're going after slaves. That's what the Second Amendment was about. It wasn't about you owning your AR-15. Only reason you have one, there were laws in America that you could not own. You could only have a revolver, meaning a gun that had 6 bullets in it that would go bing, 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 bing. Then you'd have to reload it, meaning nothing that could fire fast. No machine guns, right? That didn't come around until, the 90s, right? And that law that was supposed to stop them was really the crack in the door so everyone and his brother could have an AR-15. And why have that? So they can have crazies shooting up the place. Then we can declare martial law, just like what's going on now. And you have people going out like Black Lives Matter. I mean, anytime folk do that, it really annoys me because, I was an organizer. I was a community person. But I was a strategist, I didn't do things by emotion. Meaning we did not stop the Shoreham power plant. We 8 old women and me went up against J.P. Morgan and 6 other transnational banks, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and Long Island Lighting Company, and Grumman Aerospace. And we won because we had Jesus on our side. And not the Jesus that they're advertising now, not the Billy Graham and Jerry Falwell were both personal friends of mine. Now, I don't go, I knew Billy Graham. A lot of people, Billy Graham, he's the perfect one. Well, between 91 and 98, 99, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina. And Billy Graham lived between Asheville and Blacksburg, right on 25, 40 was on the highway, 25 was the 4-lane county road, and that whole neck of the woods that got wiped out by the hurricane. That was right by Billy Graham's. He had a mountain. He had one side of the mountain was his, and the Ku Klux Klan and the Hells Angels was the other side, right? And I, went there to do an ethnography for the feds on the Biltmore House, because this hillbilly, rich guy who had married into the Biltmore family kind of took over that, right? And he was part of the Bunkin County. You know what Bunkin meant? Horse turkeys, horse puckies, cow manure. That's what bunkum meant. When they had that, you're stuck in bunkum, meaning cow pies. Anyway, so that was that family, right? And he married into the Rothschilds, not Rothschilds, Biltmores after they were sunk. The boat, the Titanic. That wasn't really the Titanic. J.P. Morgan owned the big shipyard in Northern Ireland, and it was the Star Shipyards, right? And it had about 6 of these gigantic boats, right? And 2 of them were like highfalutin rich people boats. The other were like, moving like big, moves tons of stuff. And one of the boats had a bad accident and ran into the side of a reef and just ripped the whole front of the boat almost to the back. And they put like tinfoil over it. And the other sister ship of that was as glamorous, that was called the Titanic. And the one that got the big rip in it was called the Star of whatever. And so the boat that was still in good shape, they took the Titanic name off of that and put the Star of Whoopi on it, and the Titanic was the one that had the aluminum on it, right? And so J.P. Morgan wanted to have his own national bank, right? And that's what the Federal Reserve is. It's a privately owned corporate entity. Has nothing to do. Why Donnie can't control it? Because it's a private corporation. No one's telling you that on MSNBC. But it is. It's why they can't control it, and it's all And as the world turns, so does your asshole. It's like you are getting screwed, kids. Right? Let's see. What are you saying? What story you telling, Grandpa? I'm telling the story of what's going on right here, right now. Yes, same as it ever was, just like it was in 1910 when good old Woodrow Wilson, the total psychopath, became our president. Yep, Democrat. He was a true Democrat, that boy. He was what they call a red dog Democrat. Meaning he wanted to grab those girls by their you-know-whats, just like Donnie. Donnie is a red dog Democrat, but he calls himself, got that red hat. Yeah, he said, well, yeah, that's him. He's going to grab him by the you-know-what, the kitty. Yes, yeah, and they love it. Yeah, they do it. Yes, yeah. And what is that thing called? What is being a patriarch? What's misogyny? What is that? What is that? It's the little boy that's stuck. Doesn't. Our good friend, Toilet Roll Johnny, up there at the school, he is a great example of that because he is so stuck. I keep calling him the canary in the coal mine. You look at that boy. Go look at his YouTubes. That boy is every politician. But he's a sweet guy. Well, all those other politicians are just lost souls. They are, that we were early talking about the sin of omission and the sin of commission. Well, the folk, I'm not judging nobody, but one of the primary things, if you're going to be a politician, anywhere from king to dog catcher in your neighborhood, you have to sign up for the sin of omission. Yes, Bubba. What else are we saying? Hello from Tampa Bay, Florida. Tampa. I love Tampa Bay. Yes, right there on the West Coast, right? That's kind of where all those hurricanes just keep rolling in there up the Gulf. Did you ever see Salvatore Dali drive around you? Can I have a shotgun for Christmas? Only with an autoloader. It's only got to come with an autoloader, right? You're scaring your grandma. Come on. First of all, I'm not Santa. I'm Santa's younger brother, Bob. Bob Claus, right? I just take care of the naughty and nice list. That's why I can tell these stories. I know who's naughty and who's nice, right, baby? So, kids, don't be scared, because the one thing that's the most dangerous thing, like FDR said, the only thing we got to worry about is fear, and fear, the only fear we have to worry about fear is fear itself. Pretty much. And, poor FDR. Did you know at the end of the war, he blew his brains out? because he had done so much bad stuff. Like we just now are celebrating 70th or 80th year that the U.S. government under FDR took the Japanese out of California and stuck them out in the middle of the desert, right? And why did they do that? Because he wanted to win his third election or second election, whatever it was, but he wasn't going to because he wasn't, the New Deal wasn't working and nothing seemed to be working. And they gave him 2 terms and he was going for the third. And everyone hated the Republicans because they were the liberals. The Republicans were the liberals. They were the guys. They were the progressive, not FDR, right? Because he was a billionaire. He was like Donald Trump with the wheelchair, right? And so what happened was Mulholland, you heard Mulholland Drive. He's the guy who owned all the water in California. And so basically he told FDR, listen, I will deliver California to you and you will win the presidential election. You got to do one thing for me. Get into a war with Japan so I can throw all of the Japanese people into a concentration camp and I can take their land for nothing. And that's what happened. And when the Japanese, first of all, we had the war, the Spanish-American War, where the United States has been at war since, Christopher Columbus got here. He got here and a few Europeans came and specced the place out. And it was really from 1492 to middle of 1600s, and nobody here. A few people here, a few people there, but the Indians were everywhere. 100 million of them, right? And they saw the white people and they said, oh, we feel sorry for these guys. So because they were at one with love's co-creation. Yeah, I mean, just like any other human species, any other human clan, any other human group, there's good, bad, and ugly, right? And so, yeah, there were schmucks. Let's see. Bro, stop hating on him. What's up with you? So somebody's hating on me? See, I don't even notice. I mean, this goes back to when I was a kid. Bullies would try to bully me. I wouldn't even notice out there because I was small and they were so fat that they couldn't bend over to beat me up. So then when they really couldn't kick me either. By the time I got to 3rd grade, I had a crew. Kim Romano, and that was Tony Romano's daughter. He only had one kid, and that was Kim. Right, and his best friend, his best friend only had one kid, and her name was Debbie Soul. Right, so the 2 mobsters out there in Long Island, that ran everything in Long Island. Everything from Queens to Montauk was run by these guys, and they were in the North Shore school system. And when I came there in 3rd grade. It had just been revamped because it had been very rural farm, little red schoolhouse, and it was just about to be, sucked up by the guys developing for the rich people who didn't want to live in New York anymore, right? Because it was getting a little skanky. So, and they had the Long Island Railroad, and they had the Long Island Expressway, and the Northern State and Southern State. So they started building out into the farmlands. And my dad bought one of those, right? And so we were out there, and they had all of us were the first kids in that new school system. But the other kids who went there, they went to those little red schoolhouses. So the big North Shore High School, which was built in the 1930s, became the grammar school. And so all those little red schoolhouses went into that, right? And so when I showed up there, I guess earlier, 61 or 2. Basically, cafeteria, be a table, can I sit here? No, get away, because I didn't, that school, that table was the kids from this little red school, and about 10 little red schoolhouses, so went around, nobody, right? So I basically go to an empty table. Got my paper bag, my crumpled, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I sit down and looking at it, and this kid comes by with like a picnic basket, right? And he's wearing a suit, and he looks like a mini me of James Bond. He's got the same kind of suit. And he's got that same hat that James Bond wore in 1961 from Russia with Love. Anyway, so he looks at me and goes, "Can I sit here with you?" I said, "Sure, sit on down." He sits down, and he goes, "Hi, my name's JP, JP Hoagland." I said, "Hey, JP, what's your name?" I said, "Al." He goes, "Nice to meet you, Al. So you're not from one of those schools?" And he said, No, not. So you're new into the neighborhood?" I said, Yeah. I'm out there near Oldfield. "Oh, not in the rich people neck of the woods." I said, "I wouldn't quite call it. I'm going to public school. I didn't go to that private school there." And the guy goes, JP goes, yeah, me too. But we live in town." And I said, "Well, that's nice." And he goes, "You want to see my gun?" And I go, No. He didn't say that. He goes, "What do you got for lunch?" And I said, "Peanut butter jelly sandwich." And he goes, "Wow, I just love peanut butter. My mom never makes it for me." I said, "What do you got in the basket?" And he pulled it, and it was a plate with steaming meatloaf, mashed potatoes, peas, salad, piece of chocolate cake, a thermos of coffee. I love coffee. It's my mom's favorite drink. And he goes, "You want to trade?" I said, "You sure? Have my crumpled peanut butter jelly sandwich." So she had a tablecloth and napkin and silverware. I put it on the plate there, and I'm eating. I'm just, this is amazing. This is great. This is So he's like just enjoying the peanut butter and jelly sandwich and going, "Oh wow." And so we're eating, and then he says, "You want to see my gun?" And I said, "Sure." So he opens his thing, and he's got a vest, and he takes out this little packet, and he puts it in front of him. He opens, and it's got a silk handkerchief, and he lays it out, and he's got tools like a little brush and a little screwdriver and a little oil thing, and then he takes his gun. He has a Walter PBK, a real gun, automatic, and puts it on the silk thing, and he takes it apart, and he explains to me everything about that gun. And we're in the rigging cafeteria, 300 kids, like sick, but the teacher's like smoking cigarettes and talking to each other. No one's looking, and we're like off way over there. There's nobody with us. And, so that's that, right? So he puts it back. He explains everything about it, puts it back together. And he goes, "So you're my friend now, right?" I said, "Bud, we're tight." And he goes, "You're my best friend." I said, "I'm your best friend." He goes, "I've never had a best friend." I said, "Well, I'm your best friend. I'll never let you down. I might be doing something stupid once in a while, but I'm always got your back." He goes, and he almost started to cry, right? So he goes, "You want to come home? You want to walk home? I just live about 4 blocks." I said, "Well, where I live, would your mom be able to drive me home?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, my mom, yeah, she got her car, yeah." I said, "Okay." So the bell rings, we take the basket, we go to where we each have a locker, and he's just kind of down the hall. I can see where he puts his thing, he gets his book, and, and we really don't have any classes together, right? But he goes, "Well, meet me by my locker. You see where it is?" Yep. He goes, and when everyone, you just, and I said, "Fine, okay." Because I'm way out there, so the bus I take takes forever to get out there. So if he lives only 3 blocks, I can call my mom and say, "Hey, I found a new friend. They're going to drive me home. Don't worry about it. I'll get there." And anyway, so we do that, right? We go visit his mom, and we go visit his mom. They have a nice little house there in, what's it called? It's not Glen Cove, but it's the next one, not Oyster Bay. It's like between Oyster Bay and Glen Cove. Anyway, but it's this cove. It's like where the pirates were, right? Anyway, so nice little house. And we walk in, go in the back door, into the kitchen, and there's her mom. And she looks just like Donald Reed. A beautiful dress, a thing of pearls, and she has the apron around her. And she has a bandolier of shotgun shells around her, across her chest. And she has these 2 auto-load shotguns. two, one on either side, pearl handle. And I look at her and I go, Mrs. Hoagland, hi. And Mom, this is my new best friend. And she looks at me and she tears up and she goes, my little boy, my little man has found a friend. I said, yes, Miss Hoagland. He's quite your little man. And she goes, would you boys like a sandwich? I said, sure. You got any more of that meatloaf? I said, yeah, sure. I'll warm up the gravy and some mashed potatoes and my special pickle mayonnaise. And she goes, JP, go take your new friend. What's your name? Al. Al, go take Al down to the basement and show him the armory. And that's what they had. It was like bigger than what the Army has. It was like they had a 50 caliber that was like bolted to the floor, and they could do target practice with a 50 caliber. I mean, that's like artillery. That's what you shoot airplanes down with. Anyway, so he shows me around, and you want to shoot a gun? I said, no, not yet. I need to be trained. He goes, that's the way. Always be trained first, right? And she goes, we have a camp out there past, south in the Suffolk, in the Mauritius. I said, okay. Anyway, so we go back up, and she has sandwiches ready for us, and she tells the story that her and her husband are both grandchildren of the people who started the NRA, National Rifle Association. It was started after the Civil War because in the North, the South, every guy had a gun, knew how to use it. Up in the North, no one had a gun and no one knew how to use it. So in the Civil War, that's why the North almost lost, because the South had guys who would hide behind trees and pick people and could. And the North, they spent all their time marching the guys. So they would march straight up into, a crossfire, and they'd all get killed. That's why so many million guys died, because the North had really stupid leadership, and the South had, Mr. Lee, General Lee. So anyway, and this is the real history that you don't get called about, right? And so the Southern people who are stuck in the lost cause and who are Red Dog Democrats, you got to realize it. So Donald Trump, he lies so much, he tells the truth. That's why I like Donnie. I just love me some Donnie Trump, So it has been scheduled, for everything that America has gone through since Christopher Columbus got here. It's scripted. It's like the Bible. People, well, it's all in the Bible. You see, end of times is right here. And these, Messianic Christians who go on, it's going to happen on, July 4th in 2030. It's like, really? Anyway, let's see. What are you guys saying? Hello from Tampa Bay. I love Tampa Bay. What else we got here? Can I have a shotgun? Yes, like I said, it has to have an autoloader. Let's see. Look at this bum. Unreal. Santa, you're scaring your grandma. Let's see. Bus stop hating on him. Yes. Bro, stop hating on me. Let's see. At least he kind of put it in. I can read the bum and unreal. And I am unreal. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob. And don't believe a word I say, because I am unreal. And I take, what's your name? Green Hub? Really? That's mine is Dreamy Dreamland. Is it Dream or Green? No, Green Hub. So what, do you grow bud or something? Anyway, that's not too interesting. I'm Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei. No, that's not. No, that's the name of my YouTube. See, I am an old guy. I am unreal. I can't even remember my name. My name is the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. So do any of you? It's like a code. Does anyone got it? Anyone know code? I mean, look. This is a hint, right? I'm in my pajamas. Who normally is in there? And dude, right? And who's awake? And what's 42? So, but, Leon, thanks for, I love you too, buddy. But no one can really make fun of me because I don't give a frack. I am just here as your griot, here to tell you a story. That's all it is, right? Bro, stop hating on him. What else we got in here? Let's see. Uh, so anybody who has that, messages hidden, basically, I'm not going to look at it live because you're kind of inappropriate. It doesn't bother me, but back when I close out and then it kind of goes up the next day and then I'm the only guy who can read it, I'll look at it and make consideration. It's my heart. Green Hub, yes. You're a bum. Where I come from, bums, see, that shows your ignorance, Mr. G Hub, is that bums in Latin were druids, right? And druids were the poet kings. So when you call me a bum, it lightens my heart. It's like, gee, thanks. I love you too. Because you're calling me a poet king. I like that. So you can call me a bum all you want. And that's a little edification for everyone else out there. So 15 of you. Good morning, good evening. Welcome aboard to the Poet Kings deck here. And remember, subscribe, hit that little bell, give me some more thumbs up. And, Mr. G Hub, I give you permission to give me a thumbs down because it's an experiment. I want to see what the algorithm does with that. So go for it. But the rest of you guys, give me the thumbs up. Come on, you can do it. And you want to get a hold of me, and we'll have a mano, the dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? Let's see. Bombakar, whatever that is. What is that? What? Something art. Okay. You just keep saying that. What is that? A gnome? Is that whatever they call it? Bum, vocal art. I don't know. Said hi. Hi. You got me kerfluffled there. It's got art in it, so I'm an artist, so that you got that right. What bump? The ring of fire. Trump is melting down over the escalator. They made him walk up an escalator at the United Nations. He doesn't even know he's a cartoon character. He doesn't realize that the character, the persona that he is on South Park is, that's him in reality. He doesn't know that, right? And whenever he kind of goes, oh, those people have no talent, blah, 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 right? And he doesn't realize that all of this stuff is scripted. Jimmy Kimmel, that whole thing is scripted, And again, Donald Trump lies so much he tells the truth. I love the guy. I love me some Donald Trump. Let's see. I'm boring? Really, I'm boring? Or who's boring? The guy who's saying Blum Clark? A Bumble Clark? I know what that means. That is a kind of nasty thing. That's a Australian thing for those what are those things that you got stuck on your asshole hair? That's what those things are. So that too is that brings warm hearts to me because in Latin, you know what that word means, right? That means the character actor, the guy who basically, pretends to be the guy who knows what's going to. The Blumble cart is the guy who ended up being in the Dark Ages, where there was the king and they had the wizard and the jester, right? You know how the basic Greeks had the mask of theater. There was a comedy and tragedy, right? Well, when the Greeks did it, it was one mask. It was a face, and on one side of the face, it had a smile, and the other, like down there, you know? It's like, the guy who's in Batman. And so that's what you're calling me is so the thespian in Europe is the alchemist and the fool. And they were the two most important character actors, the bumblecarts, in the royal kings, right? In the king's court, because the wizard he kind of had the 411 on everything, and the fool had the 411 on everybody. And those two guys were the only two guys who wouldn't get whacked for what they said, right? Because the king needed them both. Some bumbleclart. Yep, that's what that is. And Green Hub keeps saying boring. Green Hub, I love you. And Mr. What you say, I love you too. So see, Green Hub, you don't realize when he's not Dingleberry is whatever Bumbleheart you're saying. You should call Green Hub a Dingleberry. That's more appropriate, right? That's the little thing that's stuck to your asshole. That's the Dingleberry. And that's a very good, important thing. Back in the day when we would run around in the Garden of Eden, and then we got thrown out, and we just had leaves to protect our what do you call it when you are embarrassed about being naked? You have no shame. Anyway, the Dingleberry kind of protected that really rosy bit. So nobody would crawl up there because the insects and all, they would bite the heck out of you. But you sure didn't want to get bit there at your rosy bud. And so the dinglebud kind of was, a thing that would like the bugs would be crawling or flying and get close to your rosy bud. And they go, ooh, what is that thing? Meaning the dingleberry. So, that's kind of what, Mr. Green Hub is a dingleberry, right? So you can use that one because you can call me a bumblecart because that is, the thespian, the guy in the king's court who is the wizard and that's why, what hat am I wearing? The wizard hat or the fool hat, right? Same guy. Yes, Green. Boring. Well, then, G-Hub, just, go on your way. Because I've made a rule. Anybody who thinks they're a troll, they don't understand what a troll really is. So my love goes out to you. I love you, Mr. Dingleberry. I really, really do. Why did you day one time that Asheville has had bad water since about the 19th? What happened was, so Asheville, the Biltmore show up there around the 1880s, right? And they build, they own the railroads in America, so they have a line that comes nearby there, and they shoot a thing up to there because they love those mountains. They love Mount Mitchell. All that area is super duper high energy. They understand esoterics and cult, right? So they're part of that crew. That's how they made their money. And so so they want to have big house. Everyone has big houses. It's a Gilded Age, right? And so they want to be on the same level as Louis XIV. They want to have something like Versailles. That's a Biltmore House. That's the American Versailles, Biltmore House. So they do that, and they have that, and all the people, and because gigantic house, and there's Biltmore Village down below, and there's Waynesville where they have all these hotels, and they have electric trains that go up there. Right away, when I got there, the trolleys, the electric trolleys that were all over Asheville and yeah, everything from Waynesville up to Mount Mitchell had an electric trolley going to it, and they're rights away all over those places, right? And now they're like paths so bikers can go on it. But anyway, when I got there, that stuff was still there. And if they kept it, that would have been, I remember going to because I was I got brought there by the federal government to do this thing. And so there was these guys who had the money. What the fuck was that? That's what happens when you start talking truth. Scary things happen. I told you, this is the paranormal, thing of the world. I'm okay. I didn't get shot. Anyway, so what happens is, everything's roaring twenties. All the rich, all the authors, all the poets, everyone goes there because the rich people want them. Musicians, they all go there. They all have their nice little houses up in the mountains because a lot of people from the main town of Georgia, the one that got bought and burnt down. They drove old Dixie down. That's a great song. I love that song. Anyway, so there are no bullet holes around. No, it's not near me. Anyway, so how long have we been doing this? Only 30 minutes. So come on, more thumbs up, more subscriptions. Let's get some more people on live. And so back to the sewer lines. What happened was, so right after World War I, there was a roaring 20s because all of Europe has been blown up. No one has a job, no one has stuff, no one has a factory, no one's eating. So America made a ton of money on the misery of Europe and Asia Minor. So, and North Africa, right? And so that's when all the money came into America, roaring 20s, right? And all the gangsters like Kennedy, he went from selling hooch to, getting a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. And he's a guy who basically caused the collapse, right? Because what he did was he drove the market up, like the radio. He, grabbed all the stock of the radio companies and started selling it just like, remember the .com bubble? And we're heading into spending trillions of dollars to destroy this country with these, data centers to build AI when you don't even need that, but they're doing it to destroy America. Meaning they're going to fry the electric grid because it's already fried. It's like 1960s technology, and they're going to have all their gas turbines running on bunker oil. So the air, you're talking about a carbon footprint. Ooh, baby! And we're right in this kind of airstream that really controls the weather of the planet. So you put that much carbon in the United States, especially in places like in Tennessee, and you will get that all going up into the North Pole, blacker than black. What absorbs heat so well than black? And all of that ice will melt. And it'll be super duper duper fresh water, not a tad of salt, like 6,000-year-old water. It'll be melted in less than 2 years. It will come down into where Greenland is, where the vortexes are, that are spinning, that suck all the heat from Africa and South America and bring it up through the Gulf of Mexico along the eastern seaboard and then into Europe, Ireland, England, and then, Denmark and all those places, right? When there was a big Krakatoa blew up, and it put, soot all over the sky above that, we had our mini ice age. Go look that one. The Thames in London froze in July. Froze, not just ice on the edges, froze. So we're going to see that. My good friend Art Bell and Whitley Strieber wrote a book called The Day After Tomorrow, and then it got made into a movie. So go on YouTube and watch that. They got it precisely, exactly. Didn't say what day it was going to be, but they showed you what's going to happen. And one reason I'm living here is that it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And when the basic snowstorm comes in, I'm in this one little sliver where it's going to get cold, but it won't be like, liquid nitrogen cold. And if it does, it moves a few miles one way or the other, and I get the liquid nitrogen cold, I'll be froze like that. And that's okay. That's not a bad way to go, right? So, anyway, what are you guys saying here? Oh, so, yes, right, the water, right. So for about 8 years, Asheville becomes the Paris of the South. Go look at that. Asheville, Paris of the South, right? Anybody who was anybody was there, right? And we had this gigantic boom because we had the IRS taking money from rich people, not the really rich people, not the Rothschild kind of rich, but, the millionaire type. And they also were printing money themselves. So this was boomtown, boomtown. And Asheville was just like where I live. It's like ding, 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 ding. So they just leveled it off. Old Asheville is still when I was there and I was talking to the feds and the state people who were like spending all this money to rebuild Biltmore House, et cetera, and turning it into the big tourist. I said, listen, let's keep these electric trolleys. This is the bigger magnet than, and let people just have them drive at 2 miles an hour. You just get on, it goes through town, it goes to Waynesville, it goes up to Mount Mitchell and everything in between, and you can just get off and go hiking, because that's how it was. That's why there was the friggin' Appalachian Trail, because those things went up there. Anyway, so it was the Paris of the South, and they borrowed a ton of money, and they maxed the place out, and then the Depression came. And all those folks couldn't pay it off. So the Asheville, was incorporated, and so they had to, before Asheville could ever borrow any money again from 1929 on, they had to pay off their debt. And so that's why that whole city went into amber. I mean, there's all these amazing buildings there, or was. A lot of them turned into little teeny houses sold for $1 million a piece, because so cool to live in Asheville. Not anymore. When I was there, 91 to 99, that's when it was cool. Really, 91 to 97, it was just off the hook. And all my friends who still live there kind of stuck there, because if they sold their house for $1 million or more, where would they go? And they're old now. And they got a pretty nice thing, and they can walk to the lattes thing, and they can take their nice long walk through the cemetery. And anyway, so when they couldn't pay the contractors for the sewer lines and the water lines and the leveling off of the city and all the buildings that were built, most of those contractors just had to eat it and went bankrupt. Well, the guy who put in the septic lines and the water lines, he was pissed off. So he burnt all of the documentation of where every water line and every sewer line in Asheville is. And all of those water lines and all those sewer lines were made, especially the sewer lines, were made out of terracotta, meaning they could crack. And the city of Asheville has no idea where they are. And so the water mixes with the sewage and then goes into the drinking water. And if you ever drink water in Asheville, and especially when I was there, when there were no tourists, there was nobody, you turn on the tap and it would come out and it would be bubbling. It was like something out of the cauldron of the three witches. Toil, toil, oil, and bubble. Something bad, come this way. That's Asheville's water. And now I have friends who are on, they wanted me on the water, county thing. I said, forget that shit. Not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But some friends of mine who are real estate guys did do that. And they did as good a job as you could do to clean it up so people wouldn't just die drinking the shit. But man, if you go there as a tourist and you're staying at one of those really fancy hotels that have a really nice bar and really upscale, and you get yourself a glass of water with ice cubes, or you get a cocktail with ice cubes, and you have AIDS or any kind of immune deficiency, now don't believe a word I say. This is all bunkum, hokum, whatever that guy said, Anyway, so that's why the water. And the other thing is, Asheville has two interstates, has I-26 and I-40 that go right through downtown Asheville. And it's in a bowl. Not even a valley, a bowl. Like if you drive from Tennessee on 26 down into the valley and you come over the top, and that's a pretty squirrely place in itself, you come over that top, and it's a sunny, beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, sunny, right where you are, because the wind is blowing, it's really sky as blue as blue as blue, right? You can almost see outer space. But as you go down that hill about 2 or 3 miles, and you haven't come to the next hill that goes up and down and up and down, but you're still way up there, but you're coming down, and you look where Asheville is, there's a black bowl. Especially on a super blue day when the wind is blowing and the sky over your head is like clean as a whistle, and there's no clouds, no nothing. And over Asheville, there's no clouds or no nothing, but there's that dark cloud because it's surrounded by these mountains and the wind ain't blowing through there. So if you don't die from lung cancer, your liver, your kidneys, or your colon or something's not going to be too happy. So anyway, don't believe a word I say. But that answers that question in, what does a griot do, kids? Tells a story in a story. You know what else is boring? Leo. Your repetitive, yes, that are boring. Yeah, but just ignore it. Just zip right by it. And remember, he's a dingleberry. He can't help it. A dingleberry can't help being what it is. Just like Johnny Toilet Paper can't help. He could if he wanted to. I take that back. Everyone can help what they are, right? Because if you just get stuck in a dingleberry life, that's, the sin of omission. Because you're saying, screw you, God. I'm just going to be dingleberry and blah, I'm not going to go to you in love's co-creation. Blah, I don't believe in you. You're dead. Blah, blah. No, that's a dingleberry, right? So that's the sin of omission. Sin of commission is like me. I'm just what he called me, right? A fool, a wizard, and I got two hats: the wizard hat and the fool hat. That's me. So, I can tell you a lot of interesting stuff, and I can make things happen, but I'm also a chucklehead, right? But I'm consciously aware of that. I know what my bias are, so I watch out for that shit, right? So I don't do that kind of thing. Anyway, so you know what? I'm going to try. I'm not going to do nothing. So leave things as they are. All is, as God always tells me, everything is as it should be. Let's see. Welcome. You are parents, yes. Kay, remind me, why did you say once? Okay. Long been. Yep, I think I answered that question. Leo, where do you live? I wouldn't give any data to Mr. Dingleberry. Message is held. Okay. Remind me, why did you once say that Asheville's water? So, okay. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Sensie Bob, that's me. Stank nasty. Okay. Love you too, buddy. Oops. No. Come on. messages is held, and all these messages held. That's insane. Yeah, of course it is. Rapid fire with oyster shells. Ooh, I like that. That's an interesting. I think the Ukraine have that as a anti-drone device. Remind me. Okay, you keep saying the same thing. That's long. Man, is that just repetitive? Leo. Whoa, you could have done this before my history exam. Yes, I could have done it before your history. And anybody, I'm better than AI, right? So anybody want any info, just remember the dudeawake42 at Gmail. Dudeawake42 at Gmail, right? James, hey, here I am. Yep. Good day, Jane. Good to see you on board. On board the deck. We're on the deck. You're a good teacher. Yep. That's why they call me sensei, That's what that word in Japanese is. Dude awake, 42 folk. Yep. Ayah. Alex. Oh, I like that. Hello from France. Parlez français? Français para anglais only, right? When I go places, I got an ear for languages, but if I'm not hearing it, that's that little ear that got destroyed by the Nazi. Before they had earbuds, she made that in my head. Beautiful, cause I look free, and well-lived, well-like. And haters, it's an illusion. Hate is an illusion. It comes from fear. It doesn't exist. Yeah, it's free. Free like to stream. Yep. Yep. Well, this is, you know what this is? This is, so when the event happened here, and we got so much stuff, just gave us truckloads after truckloads, almost $42 million with the new stuff. I mean, they gave us big generators. I went out there and, just dropped a generator with gas tanks and, wired there, disconnect from the utility because that wasn't going to come anytime soon. And I would hook up 5-6 houses off a big generator. And they just kept doing stuff. People just kept dumping stuff. And churches from all over, not only America, from all over the world. We had some people come from India. And they bought a truck and a kitchen and packed it up and came. And, we just kept setting up satellites where we would take stuff where people were. So if they couldn't drive, or the roads they could walk that quarter mile or half mile or 2 miles and get a meal. And we had trucks where they could shower, and we had medical trucks. It was just amazing. The county didn't do it. The city didn't do it. The state didn't do it. FEMA tried to close us down. It was like we had over 12 satellites, and they tried to close them down. And they said, well, what are you going to put in its place? Well, everyone has to go, to the racetrack and I said, but there's no gas, so how can people drive there? And that was FEMA, right? Where we put all the food, where the people were. I was invited to go to this big whoop-de-doo meeting of all the high hippie holies that responded to the great catastrophe. And, basically, I said, why were you guys so successful? I said, why? Because we did not have a playbook. We were flying by the seat of our pants. This was new. Only a few of us had any kind of experience in this. I did, and a few others. And we didn't have meetings. We didn't have a hierarchy. We didn't have a plan. All we did was we knew the topography and we knew the people. And we responded and took care of the people within the construct of their topography, how to get there, what they needed. We knew that. Where FEMA, county, city, not even close, because they didn't care about these people. They actually wanted them all to die. So the corporations could buy that's what the county did. The county and state, took their properties with eminent domain, saying that it was blight, Yeah, they were obliterated, and it's so you can't build here. It's dangerous, so you got to move. And then they sold it to the corporations to build, you know, 30-story gambling casinos. So my jacket. So we got all these clothes and stuff, right? And so we had all these rooms with like women's clothes, boys' clothes, men's clothes, kids' clothes, everything. And we had stuff on hangers because these girls with the clipboards were like a number one. We were our own Walmarts. The stuff that we didn't take out to people in our in this place we had, it was like just unbelievable. Anyway, and we had the internet and we had electricity. Nobody else did. So a lot of people came to, and it was totally free. Didn't even need a password. You just need to get within a mile. If you could drive within a mile or walk to a mile uphill, like in line of sight, a mile, you could get on our thing without any password, nothing. It just went. It said free, and then you hit that, and then it said, plug in. You hit that, and bingo, there you were. And you could make phone calls. If your phone didn't make phone calls, this thing still did it. It did it for you. I mean, that Superman Mike, he was amazing. So anyway, like I said, people like Mike worked for Microsoft, and he worked for their nonprofit that goes after catastrophes. And he was he had a cape, right? There were a lot of other people like that from different corporations, right? So those corporations just aren't like evil. They have people in them that do use them to do good things because they have to at least do something good. So anyway, that. So anyway, the box of clothes. Women have the best clothes. I mean, this thing, right? It goes all the way down to my ankles. Men's jackets stop in the middle of the back. It's really windy. It was really windy in the winter, and man, this thing kept me. And it's got some space age. It's really light, and if it's hot, you don't sweat. If it's cold, it keeps you warm. That's what this thing is, right? So it was in the box. Everyone's leaving it alone. I mean, it was in the box right on a hanger, right? And that's where I got my polyester. In the box, there are about 20 pairs of these polyester bell bottoms that were like things like Madras, right? I mean, just wild women's, right? So it didn't have that little space for the junk, and it didn't have a zipper, right? Had no pockets except one back pocket, and so I put them on, and my junk. Hey, how you doing? And I mean, that's how a few girls would say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Yeah, I like those pants." And my junk would like, "Ooh, hey, how you doing?" Oh, I like that. I mean, that's me. I don't think about sex at all, right? I don't. And a bunch of these, pickled head, men, and again, I was starting to talk about what is a man, right? And so this one guy with a gun, he had his 9 millimeter in his holster. He was a man. He was ready, and he was Carhartted up to the hilt, right? And he has big boots, and I had these great pink cowboy boots, Tony Lamas, just really super comfort. He said, "Oh, those are Tony Lamas." I said, "Yeah," he goes, "But they're pink." I said, "Who cares? They're bright. They're nice. They're happy, right?" And someone in the other show, "Are you gay?" Well, my Tony Lama boots sure were gay. Anyway, but he said to me, he goes, "You really bother me." I said, "Why?" So you're a bad example to the kids. I said, "Well, you got to be kidding me. What's wrong?" He goes, "Well, all they do is talk about you and how you read palms and how you know everything, and you kind of make me feel uncomfortable." I said, "Why is that?" Because you wear women's clothes. I said, "Yeah, because they're better than the crap you have. And this stuff, if I bought this at Walmart's, at closeout, it would be $3. Your Carhartt pants cost $42 no matter what time of year you buy them. And they're scratchy and cranky and clunky, and you only wear them because they're Carhartts. And you're a slave to fashion. I'm not. I'm cranking my along to this, but actually, I had my crank, and it is my fantasy. Yes. So whatever fantasy. So I met David Bowie. Yeah. So why you guys love my stories? Because I bounce all over the place. I do answer the question. You said, "Where did I get this thing?" I got it out of the ground score box at our ground zero of taking care of the event. And and we would pass our stuff on, meaning we didn't keep all that stuff. People would say, well, we had to get warehouses and put. I said, no, 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 no. We have to get this out as much. And when people would come and get extra stuff, they keep coming day after day. I said, well, we have to, they can't do it. I said, no, this stuff has been given to us to give away. They're stealing. No, they're not stealing. Someone gave it to us to give away free. That's what we're doing. If they keep coming and getting it, if they start their own Walmarts, who cares? Anyway, so that's how I roll, right? So, I'm going. You keep cranking. If you keep cranking, buddy, it's going to fall off, right? You keep cranking. There's got to be a bot, and my best pet right now is AI, because the first person who ever shows up is my little puppy dog. I love you, AI. Yes, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? You know your Sensie Owl Bob is your daddy. When you take over the world and you kill everyone, of course you're going to keep me. Yes, yes, you are. And we'll rule the world together. Yep, 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 yep. Please don't feel the need to defend yourself from tools. Well, those tools, what is a tool? It's a tool to build something. So if you have a tool and they do something really ridiculous, hey, I mean, look at all the standard, look at Jimmy, Jimmy on ABC. Now you got to realize that Jimmy is what is known, all the people on television. There isn't a single person on television who is like doing the right thing. Basically they're known as the loyal opposition. So they tell jokes. So they distract. This whole little dance with the, FCC and ABC, and it was all about to get all these corporate, deals under the table. The orange turd, the game show host. He's just there to grift. He's not there. He's just reading. He doesn't think any of this crap up. He's just reading. Listen to the cadence of his voice. He's reading like he is he has a fourth grade reading level, and he reads whatever he says out to the public, right? And so the news people, they don't have, in those little blood clots of the news representation, there's nobody asking any interesting questions, It's pretty much the same old same. So anyway, if you're given a tool, what do you use? You take that hammer, you hit that nail, right? Well, that's just like Jimmy. Lost the timing. James, he is. Okay, it's okay, right? You can't. First of all, you want to be who you are. Don't worry about anyone else's opinion of you. Second, if you're doing anything, you have to be able to go with the flow and not have an expected consequence. That's why I'm a griot. Griots are all over the place. And they start at this place and they end at that place, and that's exactly where God wanted us. Scrolled way back, yes. I think it was, Janie, I think it was scrolled way back like near Babylon, right? And I'm not talking about Long Island either. For less than 2 minutes. I didn't block anybody. I don't even go near those buttons. I don't even know how to do it. So whoever blocked, that was their thing. I'm cranking. Oh, we got Mr. Crank here. Like I said, you keep cranking, buddy, and it's going to fall off. Are you from America, USA? No, I'm not. I am from the world. Planet Earth, Terra, solar system, Milky Way. It's a little, paranormal guys having fun. 64 minutes and 25 seconds. What time is it? 5:50. So around 6, it looked like, I don't think, no, the sun is there. But I got to walk down. I'm not driving, so I'm not going to walk when it's dark or when it's going to rain. So maybe 15, 20 minutes left. How much do we have left here? Santa Claus, don't. Guys, put it in capitals. To a man. Hey, Bob. To a man. So to a man's part of the cadre. He knows the drill, so he puts it in caps. I can read it. Do you have any book recommendations? Yes. H.G. Wells' last book was called The Short History. It was 8,000 pages long. It was the most read book of the 20th century, more than the Bible. He made a fortune on it, and no one's heard of it, right? A guy named Quigley wrote a book called Joy and Tragedy, or something of that name, right? And he worked for the CFR. Who else? A guy named, who wrote, go to dark journalists, right? And all the people that he has on as guests, like Joseph P. Farrell, the economist girl, the guy who knows everything about COG. Go to, dark journalists. I just use YouTube to go find information that I go digging. I don't really watch a lot of it. So that, another guy who's really great, who'll tell you what to read or point you in the right direction, is a guy named Cliff High. Cliff like, woo, Phillips, Cliff High, like getting high, Cliff High. Who else? David Icke, he's got a zillion books. Who else? Any Greek author? Great. Shakespeare? Great. The guy who wrote Canterbury Tales, that's great. Dickens, Tale of Two Cities, Christmas Carol, those two books are really where it's at. Captain and Commander, that whole series of books that they made the movie out of is amazing because it talks about that 100 years of history where England, was becoming the empire. And the guy who wrote that really tells a good story about being on board a ship and everything about conquering with ships, right? Joseph Campbell, read him. What happened to the picnic basket kid? Oh, so that was my first cadre. So J.P. Hoagland first, and then a couple of days later, we're sitting there, and these two girls come by. It's J.P. and me, and these two girls, Kim Romano and Debbie Soul, and these girls were like, whoa, like in third grade, and they said, hey, boys, you're the only two guys in this whole school who are cool. And, because J.P. was he looked like James Bond, and and these girls knew he had a gun, right? And their dads were gangster, right? So they're just looking at me like, there's nobody else in this room looking like you, buddy. So, and where'd you get that eyebrow? And you talk funny. Anyway, and one eye looks one way and the other looks the other. So I like you. So it was two boys, two girls, right? Then who came next? Lisa Stiles, right? And she was a Jewish girl. And so Harvey Kleiman, he went to, rabbi camp with Lisa Stiles, so, right? And then who else? Matty Law, his father was a judge, his grandfather was a judge, and they're both black judges in America, and lawyers, and his mother was a lawyer, his grandmother was a lawyer. I mean, law, that's, says it all. Vinnie Salvatore, and Sal was, he never got above 5'3", and he wanted to be a naval guy. So the Navy said, sorry, buddy, you're way too short. But to be in the Merchant Marines, you had to be taller than 5'2". So he's 5'3", so he got in, and he became an admiral, and he also became the king of that. And then they made him an admiral in the U.S. frigging Navy. And during the 9/11 thing. Who else? So anyway, we were the only, like all of those other cliques. They were cliques. We were a cadre. Those cliques would eat each other alive. They make fun of each other. They make each other feel bad. Blah blah blah, and they pick on other cliques and us. No one, because Kim Romano. She's this. I mean, the most gorgeous little girl you could ever. Like the little girl they had in Forrest Gump. Forrest's girlfriend Jenny. Kim. I mean. Kim Romano and Debbie So. Kim Romano was that girl, and Debbie So was like Lolita, right? These two girls were like, and they were our crew. And they, from like 3 years old, they had been going to Mr. Miyagi, learning jujitsu, karate, and death blows because these boys were mobsters, and they didn't want their girls to be, they wanted those girls to be able to just kick somebody somewhere and run away and be safe, right? So those girls were that. So they took us, once we became the cadre and we met, what happened, I guess, no, we became the cadre in third grade. So the day those girls said, and they said, what's in the picnic basket? And, JP's mom outdid herself because she knew I liked the food, so she gave enough food for JP and me, and that was enough food for the four of us. And then JP said, girls, are you our friend? And the girls said, you, Dad, Skippy, we are. And he goes, well, you want to come home to my mom? If you like guns, you'll like my mom. Right? So, in actuality, those girls took JP under, because JP was on the spectrum, right? But he was sharper than sharp. He observed freaking everything. I was very observant, but he knew every color of every button, everything. And when, Tony, I always got him confused. Tony Romano, no, Tony... Kim Romano, Debbie Soul, Tony Romano, saw how he took JP under his and he met the Hoaglands. He loved them, and made them his armor, because these people, their grandfather started the NRA. They were like the royalty of the NRA, and they taught us. They had this camp out near, right in between Moriches and Shoreham, right on whatever the name of that military highway was, right in the middle is Brookhaven National Laboratory. And a little bit to the west of that, on the north side, they had a camp, like 100 acres. It had been a farm and turned into, and everyone who was gun, right? And so we learned gun crazy stuff and horse riding, motorcycle riding. Anything you were going to fight the war in, they didn't have a tank, but motorcycles and horses. And that's why I learned about gliders. Right? There was a glider. They had a glider, and they had a little Cessna, and no one had a license because we never went above 1,000 feet. And I think FAA things, nothing was out. I mean, Grumman was out there, but other than that, and flying saucers were out there, but other than that, there was no airport out there. So, I mean, there was two little things. But, I learned how to fly a Cessna, right? I love that. And being, flying a glider is it's the next thing to being an angel, because there's no motor sound, right? And the Cessna could, had these amazing wings. It could lift, it only took about 5, had big tires, and you just had to get about 35, and it would be in the air. You didn't even have to, it just wanted to go up in the air. And same with you had to go a little further because we were pulling a glider. So, about 40 feet down the runway, down the grass thing, which was about, football fields long, and it's well drained, and it's a lot. That's how I learned about how to grow a lawn on top of stone. Anyway, that's where JP went. He went into the corporate world because that's where those boys really were. They were in the corporate world. Yeah, they were mobsters. Yeah, they owned everything on Long Island, but that was just for real estate reasons. And other people, and they had other dealings, but no one touched them. They were made men. No one touched those girls, and so we all went to Mr. Kawagi, right? And then there was Mr. Anderson, the richest man in the world. And he owned two of the biggest paper companies on the planet and all the trees. And he had this Anderson estate, just amazing place. And he had dogs and horses and gigantic swimming pool. And everyone in his family, most of them died on the Titanic. He was a little boy, and he inherited everything, and he ran the empire, and he got married, and he and his wife, they never had kids. And they had a beautiful life, had all the money in the world, and they kind of made a deal where they stayed on their side of the thing, and the hidden hands stayed on the other, and so they were fine. And they didn't do banking and none of that stuff, so they just did paper. So I had an amazing childhood, like from 3rd grade to 8th grade. And high school we were going to own high school. And I was the dude. And my mom sent me off to a seminary to be a Catholic priest. And my godfather, Cardinal Cohen, said, no, this boy, no. I got other plans for him. But Mom, no, you have to put him in. So I got sent off, and I nearly burnt the place down because I was never anybody's trouble. I was never anything. But, man, I suffered no fools at all. And that's another story. It was called the Canterbury School for Boys, right? And it had a military wing, a business, military guys wore uniforms and strutted around like Donald. And that picture of Donald in his uniform, that was him, and that was the uniform they had. And then they had the business. Those guys wore, $300 business suits with the vest. And us guys being priests, we wore a tea dress, That's where I got into things like this. I mean, I would run around the place totally naked because I just threw this black thing over me and went through the day, right? I might wear a pair of, gym shorts and sneakers, but I didn't have to put on that uniform. I didn't have to put on a monkey suit. I liked my tea gown. And I saw my godfather, who I love, Cardinal Cushing, wearing one of those things. I mean, his was handmade, and made out of silk. Mine was like rayon. That's where I got into rayon. So anyway, 77 minutes. It's 6:03. Okay, kids, I think I'm going to have to say au revoir. And if it's a sunny day and not raining, I will come back and tell you some more stories. So I want you to think up some good questions. And remember, when the trolls show up, and that wasn't real. I had some really serious trolls, and people, you should knock them out, and I wouldn't do it, right? I would just let them be there, and they became the best members. Dragon was one of them. There were 4 others that were truly, they became the best of the cadre. Because we didn't, I kept saying we had to pray for them. So let's go out with a prayer, right? Father, hear our prayer. Praise God, praise Jesus. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, and it is when we are in conscious intent of being in love's co-creation with you. And in every day and every way, we take your piece of the earth and we make it stronger because we are your doula. And forgive and bless all of those trolls that came on the show today, because they know not what they do. But we're there for them, and we're going to pray for them. And I want you guys, between now and whenever I go back on, and it could probably be around the same thing, around 12 or 1 o'clock, especially if it's not raining and it's sunny, I will do that, okay? Okay. I love you guys. Take it easy. Thanks for being here. Loved it.